This is your Economic Review. Welcome back. Just before we went on break, we were talking about the possibility that some counties could now start to float their own county bonds. Arnold, really, are we therefore saying that we don't understand exactly how some of the counties in the country have been performing, and the fact that our debt portfolio just the other day also included debt in the counties?
I would go by having a metric to measure county performance.
Yes.
And basically at the moment, if you look at the three counties which are performing, you have alluded to the biggest contributors to the GDP as far as counties are concerned.
Yes.
So the idea is simply to reward those who are working. I would simply put it as John had put it before. I'll reward counties which are working. There's no need to lock out counties which have innovative ways of raising money, because these counties have the foresight of looking for an alternative to raise money for the infrastructural projects which are going on in their country.
Yes.
So I would say it's a yes for me. I feel that it's a brilliant move, and I feel that it could actually open avenues for other counties to better manage their funds so that they could actually meet that threshold of being allowed to use bonds to finance their budgets.
Right.
County budget.
Joanne, clear for us the conversation as well. I mean, this is coming amidst, number one, the BBI that says 35% of the national resources should go to the counties. And now that counties have also been awarded the biggest budget yet, 409 billion shillings. Joanne, are we saying that the magic bullet to unlocking the potential of the counties is to increase money to these counties?
I want to look back at the last few months and maybe a year back, when county governments were not exactly getting funded by the government for one or two reasons.
Yes.
So you're a county boss, and you have projects that you have within the 5 years that you have planned for. You have expenditure that you have planned for. So how do you meet your budget? How do you deliver on the promise that you give your people? So so for me, if you can get an innovative way of funding your projects and,
yes,
and funding your offices and your expenditure for your county, I think you should not be penalized if you meet the threshold. And of course, BBI, we are looking at what the BBI is saying, but we don't know how long it will take to implement and do these kind of things. So for me, if you can get an innovative way of funding your projects and meeting your budget and your expenses, I think you should be allowed to do that as a county boss.
Yes, Joanna, compare this with what some Western counties have been trying to do. I'm talking about the regional economic bloc, establish a bank which would give you money for your projects vis-a-vis bonds. What is stronger?
Okay, looking at in terms of different counties and them coming together and forming a bloc,
yes,
you require to have similar, similar environment operating, together in terms of what is happening within the bloc,
yes,
what your goals are, coming together of minds with different governors. So political alliances. So for me, if that does not work out, I think it's easier for you to chart your own path if you can, instead of depending on regional blocks that may or may not work, depending on different political environments, different thoughts, different projects, different thinking put together. So for me, I'd go for a bond. I'd go for a different thinking depending on the county boss.
Lastly, Kenyans will have to now contend with high fuel prices following huge adjustments across kerosene, diesel, and super petrol. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, Sunday adjusted upwards the prices of super petrol, diesel, and kerosene by 8 shillings and 19 cents 5 shillings and 51 cents and 5 shillings and 32 cents per litre respectively. According to EPRA, the changes in this month's prices are a consequence of the average landed cost of imported super petrol increasing by 20.93% from 323.52 USD per cubic meter in December 2020 to 391.24 cents US dollars per cubic meter in January 2021. All right, just before we cross over to say this morning, let's look at what has been the price trend of various petroleum taxes in the country. That's exactly what we've been getting, and you can see exactly where we were from 2017-2018, albeit reduced significantly in 2018-2019, but then we do expect that this is going to jump again in 2019-2020 as well. Average retail prices of selected petroleum fuels, and you can see exactly where we are. 2018 recording the biggest jump, 111, you can call it 112 shillings, and the one that follows that being in 2019 when petroleum in the country was going for 109 shillings and 63 cents. Fine. Sid, this did cause an uproar in the country, but according to EPRA's understanding, we can do nothing about it, and it just has to be that.
Thanks, Ibai. I would tend to agree with what EPRA said. If you see the crude oil prices per barrel in US dollars, from December 2020, which it stood at 49.57 US dollars per barrel.
Yes.
And in January, it shot up to $55.27 per barrel, which is a significant increase. If you look at the change in terms of percentages, the US dollar for petrol, for example, the US dollar per cubic meter went up 20.93%. Diesel per cubic meter in US dollars went up 13.64%, and kerosene has gone up 14.60%.
Yes.
So if you look at that, I mean, the global oil prices have been on a rise in the recent weeks. This is because major oil producers globally have cut output in line with their commitments on restraint. I mean, OPEC had if I'm not wrong, sometime towards the tail end of last year or mid last year, had a meeting to ensure oil producing countries actually cut their output to ensure that the price per barrel stabilizes, if I can use that word. And this is to support a market thrown out of balance by weak demand during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, China and US being the two biggest oil consumers have drastically cut their oil consumption over the past 1 year just because of the economic downturn, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, when the prices of crude oil are making a huge gain, it's bound to be expected that prices of petrol, diesel, or kerosene in Kenya would automatically go up. And this is something I believe that is, it's fairly beyond the control of EPRA.
Joanna, let me pick you up on that last part for Sid, that this is something fairly beyond control for the Kenyan government. Believe the same thing?
In terms of the percentage increase,
yes.
I beg to differ with Sid a little bit.
Yes.
I did a bit of my own mathematics. I don't know whether it's correct or not, but in terms of fuel prices, you find that we have a 8% VAT on top of that, and excise duty on inflation, and working it out by what the 8% and the excess and the inflation, the increase is a big leap in terms of price increase. For me, I think the price increase is sort of justified by of course, the increase in price for crude oil.
Yes.
But the percentage increase, I think, for me, is a big leap that EPRA should actually look at in terms of from what 8 shillings per liter for me is quite a big leap. I think they should review what they're getting on in terms of their VAT, excise duty, inflation, what they're working it out. I think they should review that to a more softer landing for the common man, because of course increase in fuel prices impacts very many other areas of the economy. So I think the leap is, for me, is, when I work it out, it's quite huge.
Pretty much. All right, let me bring in Arnold at this point as well. Arnold, is that exactly what your sentiment could be as well? Because we do know inflation the highest since April again, and then we do expect that this again is going to jump it up. We do also have taxation going back to exactly what it was pre-COVID. The politics of petroleum prices in the country, owing to, wow, the economy performance, we gotta get something out of it, given that, wow, our economy is energy driven, or just like Sid said, beyond our control?
I think we are essentially victims of economic performance.
Yes.
And this is primarily on balance of payments.
Yes.
If you look at last year, I think the country was a bit dependent on export of horticultural products, which was assisting the balance of payment to some extent. But with the second lockdown, there was a second lockdown in Europe, it actually adversely affected the horticultural exports, which again also affected the balance of payments. So couple that with what Sid alluded to in terms of what OPEC had to do, you realize last year there was a massive oil glut because of low demand. And OPEC's move was essentially just to try and cushion that position, and that's why the fuel prices went up. But on the flip side, if you look at the increments on petrol, on diesel, and also on kerosene, the devil is in the detail as far as kerosene is concerned. I feel that for kerosene, because you're looking at daily consumables by the local man,
Yes.
and if you put it at 8 shillings, that is too steep a price per liter. A balance would be struck at least if you put a metric of 5 shillings on each item, on the kerosene, on the petrol, and on the diesel. But generally speaking, we are essentially victims of poor economic performance and also the current position of the global economy.
Pretty much at this point, I'd like to thank you, Arnold, Sid, and Joanne, for joining us this morning on our economic review. Always a pleasure to have you around, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you so much, Simba.
Asante sana, Simba.
All right, on that note, again, we also say thank you very much for watching. This is Best As I Am.